There is something quietly powerful that begins to unfold when you start living in alignment with your true worth. And it never comes from trying to prove yourself. It doesn't need noise. It doesn't need applause. Because real worth is felt, not declared. You don't need to shout, "I'm smart, I'm valuable, I'm unique." Those truths will speak for themselves through your energy, through your boundaries, through the way you choose yourself, over and over again. Today, I want to take you on a soft journey. One that invites you to look at 3 quiet but powerful ways you can show a man your worth without saying a single word. And we begin with your energy. Imagine yourself as a battery, finite, delicate, and essential. And now picture your dream relationship as a device that this battery powers. What happens when you pour all of yourself into it without ever recharging? You become drained, and the heartbreaking reality is, when your light dims, others may assume you have nothing left to give. Not because you're not enough, but because you gave too much without pausing to care for yourself. In any relationship, yes, even the healthiest, when your energy is yours to protect. No one else can truly see when your spirit needs rest. No one else can recharge you the way you can. I remember hearing a story from a woman who felt disconnected during weekends with her partner. They'd go on trips together, but there would be long silences, and she felt pressure to keep everything exciting, to fill every moment with joy. But why? Why did she feel it was her job to orchestrate the fun? To keep the air alive? To carry the entire emotional weight of 2 people? You see, your worth isn't measured by how much you entertain or perform. It isn't measured by how many plans you make, or how hard you try to keep someone interested. Sometimes, your worth is most visible in your willingness to do nothing and still know you are enough. You can show up without striving. You can care deeply without abandoning yourself. You can hold space without overextending your soul. Because your presence, just you, without the doing, is already a gift. When you stop forcing magic, you create space for real connection to unfold. And when you allow yourself to just be unapologetically, gently, naturally, you become a mirror for others to see what grounded self-worth truly looks like. You don't need to convince someone that you are valuable. You only need to remember it for yourself. The ones who see your value, they'll feel it, not because you say it, but because it radiates from you, quietly and unmistakably. Letting go of who you were. There's a quiet revolution that happens within a woman when she stops clinging to who she used to be and starts becoming the woman she was always meant to become. To show a man your worth, you don't need to hold tightly to an image, a label, or a version of yourself that once felt safe. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is to gently release your old self and step into growth, even if it feels unfamiliar. Even if it feels a little scary. Real, emotionally mature men are drawn not to perfection, but to evolution. They don't fall in love with the version of you that's trying to please the world. They fall for the woman who dares to rise, to expand, to evolve. Growth is magnetic. Transformation is sacred. And when you are willing to leave behind the parts of yourself that no longer serve your becoming, you naturally inspire those around you to rise too. This isn't about changing for someone else. It's about honoring your own expansion. It's about recognizing that you are not static, and that healing is a continuous unfolding. You don't need to announce your transformation. You don't need to tell the world you've outgrown your fears, your patterns, your old stories. Let your actions speak. Let your energy shift. Let your light glow in a way it never has before. I remember a story of 2 women sisters. Perhaps, every year, they would make a ritual of doing something new, dyeing their hair a different color, visiting a place they'd never been, changing their routines, refreshing their closets, not because they were trying to impress anyone, but because they were reminding themselves, I am allowed to begin again. And don't we all need that reminder? You don't have to wait until you're broken to start over. You don't have to apologize for evolving. You don't need to stay small to be loved. In fact, your willingness to grow is exactly what makes you radiant. A man who is worthy of your energy will see your evolution not as a threat, but as a mirror reflecting to him his own potential for change. Your inner transformation becomes an unspoken invitation. Rise with me. When a man senses your quiet courage, the kind that doesn't beg for praise but simply lives boldly, he won't want to lose you. Because he'll feel what it means to be near someone who is always becoming. Always reaching for more truth, more love, more alignment. You don't need to be loud to show your power. You only need to keep becoming the woman who no longer needs to be anything but herself. The frequency of comfort. Let's pause here and reflect on something that most people overlook in relationships, not because it's invisible, but because it's so deeply embedded in our daily lives that we stop noticing it. It's the frequency you operate from. And by frequency, I don't mean something abstract or mystical. I mean your internal emotional state, your baseline vibration, the invisible signal you broadcast without saying a word. This matters more than you think. Because the kind of men you attract into your life are often a reflection of the energy you consistently carry. If you believe you are not enough, you'll draw people who affirm that. If you believe men are untrustworthy or unavailable, those will be the ones who show up at your door. Not because you deserve less, but because your energy, your frequency makes space for them. So the question becomes, what frequency are you living in? There's a quote from The Mountain Is You that I deeply resonate with. We are not wired to be happy. We are wired to be comfortable. That's why we repeat patterns, stay in familiar pain, and chase what feels safe even when it no longer serves us. Many of us are living in a loop not because we lack potential, but because we haven't shifted the frequency. It's comfortable to say, men always disappoint me, or I'm too much to be loved, or I'm better off alone than being hurt again. Those beliefs are rooted in past pain, but they're also energetically charged. They become stories we tell ourselves. And stories have power. But you can choose a different story. You can shift to a higher frequency. Instead of focusing on what you don't want in a man, speak what you do, not from lack, but from clarity. Say it like a quiet prayer to yourself. My partner is emotionally present. He listens. He respects me. He sees me. He protects what we build. He meets me with calmness and truth. Speak in the energy of what you are calling in. Not in fear, not in desperation, but in faith. Because when a man feels that you are grounded in comfort within yourself, he will rise to meet that energy or fade away. And either way, you win. There's a story I want to share. A man once told me about a fight he had with his girlfriend. She accused him of staring at another woman, and when he protested, she stormed off. Later, he admitted to something that stuck with me. I hadn't even noticed the other woman. But after my girlfriend left, I looked, and yeah, she had great legs. That moment taught me something powerful. Sometimes, when you plant suspicion, you water it. When you vibrate at a low frequency, you start seeing the world through fear. But when you rest in trust, when you vibrate in peace, you invite a different kind of reality to meet you. A man who respects you doesn't need to be chased, controlled, or constantly corrected. He rises into your energy when your energy is calm, centered, and unapologetically whole. You show your worth without saying a word by refusing to operate from lack. By choosing every day to speak, act, and think from love, not from wounds. The frequency you choose is the future you attract. And the woman who learns to be comfortable in her own skin, in her own space, in her own truth, she becomes magnetic. She no longer begs for a seat at the table. She is the table. She doesn't say, "Look at me, I'm worthy." She simply lives like she already knows. The quiet strength of letting go. There's a kind of power that doesn't announce itself. It doesn't shout, doesn't seek to convince. It simply lets go. And in doing so, it creates a shift so subtle, yet so transformative, that the people around you can't help but notice, especially men. We're often taught that love means holding on, proving, fixing, convincing someone to see our worth. But the truth is, nothing shows your value more clearly than your ability to walk away from anything that no longer aligns with your peace. Letting go is not about being cold or indifferent. It's about knowing that your worth is not up for debate. It's not something someone else gets to determine. It lives quietly inside of you. So when you stop explaining yourself, when you stop chasing what feels distant, when you stop trying to earn what should be given freely, you step into a new kind of presence. And men feel it. They feel the difference between a woman who needs them to complete her and a woman who invites them into a life that's already full. They feel the silent boundary that says, "I'm open, but I'm not desperate. I'm loving, but I'm not lost. I'm available, but only to someone who values this connection as deeply as I do." One of the greatest misunderstandings is that love is about trying harder. But real love, the kind that's sacred and lasting, begins with ease. It flows where there is respect, mutual investment, and space for individuality. Sometimes, when you let go, you're not losing anything. You're creating the space for something real to arrive. You're saying no to crumbs so you can receive the whole feast. And yes, letting go may look like silence. It may feel like distance. But it's actually a profound declaration. I know what I deserve. I choose peace, and I won't trade it for confusion. Here's the beautiful part: when you stop clinging, he may come closer not because you manipulated him, but because he felt the shift. Because men are instinctively drawn to strength, to stability, to women who do not place their worth in his hands. And even if he doesn't come back, even if he stays silent, you're still winning. Because you've come home to yourself. You've remembered what you were always meant to know, that you don't have to be loud to be powerful. You don't have to be seen to be valuable. You don't have to be chosen to be worthy. You are already enough, and the right man will never need you to prove that. He will recognize your value in your calm, in your softness, in your stillness, in your peace. You see, the deepest kind of connection isn't built on noise, effort, or performance. It's built in the quiet, in presence, in mutual energy that doesn't need to be forced. So if you're tired of proving yourself, stop. If you're exhausted from trying to be everything for someone who gives you little in return, release. If you feel like you're shrinking just to keep someone close, let go. The woman who knows how to lovingly release what doesn't serve her is the woman who is deeply rooted in her own worth. And that is the most beautiful thing a man can ever fall in love with. Becoming the mirror that reflects his best. There's a quiet kind of influence that doesn't demand or correct, but instead inspires. It doesn't beg a man to change. It doesn't shame or control. It simply lives in alignment with integrity, with kindness, with self-respect, and through that alignment, it becomes a mirror. You see, men may admire beauty, they may chase novelty, but what makes them stay, what makes them rise, is a woman who reflects the version of themselves they long to become. Not the woman who tells them who they should be, but the woman who naturally invites their growth by being deeply rooted in her own. Think about it. When you show up with emotional maturity, you invite emotional maturity in return. When you communicate clearly, calmly, and without fear, you give permission for him to do the same. When you show compassion without losing yourself, you teach that love doesn't have to hurt to be real. This is the energy of inspiration. It's not about fixing him. It's about being so in tune with your own evolution that he can't help but wonder how to meet you there. A man in his healthy masculine wants to rise for you. He wants to be your safe space. He wants to earn your trust not because you require it, but because your presence makes him want to be worthy of it. But here's the nuance: this kind of energy cannot be faked. It only comes from doing your inner work, from letting go of the stories that say you have to prove yourself, change him, or chase love. It comes from building a life that's so aligned and fulfilling that any man who steps into it knows immediately, this is sacred ground. You become the standard, not by preaching, not by playing games, but simply by being, by speaking your truth with gentleness, by holding your boundaries without bitterness, by being the embodiment of peace, play, and purpose. I remember a woman I once coached. She had gone through a series of painful relationships, ones that left her second-guessing herself, questioning her value. But through deep healing work, she began to reconnect with her voice. She stopped over-explaining, stopped over-functioning, stopped trying to prove anything to anyone. She started living, and soon after, a man entered her life. Not with fireworks, not with grand gestures, but with steadiness, with clarity, with admiration. He didn't fall for her because she chased him or impressed him. He fell because, in her calm, in her quiet power, he saw a version of himself he hadn't yet fully accessed. And he wanted to meet her there. That's the magic of being the mirror. It's never about molding someone. It's about becoming so authentically yourself that it becomes magnetic without effort. So if you've ever felt unseen, if you've ever felt like you had to become less just to keep a man close, let this be your reminder. The right man will not be intimidated by your growth. He will be moved by it. He will see the depth in your silence, the meaning behind your words, the clarity in your standards. And he will rise not because you asked him to, but because something inside him woke up when he met you. So be the mirror, be the light, be the invitation to something greater, not just for him, but for you first. The rest will follow. The energy you embody speaks louder than words. You don't need to convince anyone of your worth. Not through long explanations, not through sacrificing your needs, not through performing for love that was never truly present. You show your worth in silence, in boundaries, in how you speak to yourself when no one else is listening. You show it in how quickly you walk away from what no longer aligns with your peace. And you show it in how you stay close to yourself even when you're falling for someone else. The three energies we've explored: recharging your own light, letting go of who you've outgrown, and standing in a higher emotional frequency, aren't quick fix tricks. They're invitations. They invite you back to yourself. They remind you that you are already whole, already enough. That love, true love, can only meet you at the level you meet yourself. So many women ask, how do I make him see my value? But the deeper question is, do you see it first? Because when you do, when you really do, you won't need to say a word. A woman who sees her own value radiates it, not by being loud, not by needing to be chosen, but simply by walking in rooms with calm confidence and quiet standards. By choosing peace over chaos, truth over performance, depth over validation. And when a man meets that energy, something inside him shifts. He knows she's different. He feels safe, inspired, challenged in the best way. Not because she's trying to change him, but because in her presence, he can feel himself growing. He can feel the man he wants to be waking up. That's the power you hold. Not in being perfect, not in always knowing the right thing to say, but in learning to live with presence, in healing your own wounds, in rising from your own silence, softer and stronger. And if he can't meet you there, you'll keep walking with love in your heart, but clarity in your steps. Because once you know your worth, once you feel it in your bones, there is no going back to begging for love that doesn't know how to hold you. You become love, you become light, you become peace, and the right man, he doesn't have to be convinced. He will feel it in the way you exist. So, beautiful soul, let your energy speak, let your healing speak, let your life speak. Not everyone will hear it, but the one who's meant for you won't miss a single note. Thank you for listening and walking this path of self-worth and love with me today. If this message resonated with you, I invite you to take a deep breath and come back to yourself. Again and again, because you are your own home. And if you're new here, welcome to Whisper to Heal. This channel is your space for quiet transformation, gentle reflection, and soulful healing. If today's episode moved something in you, please consider subscribing, sharing, and leaving a comment. I'd love to hear your voice in this soft-hearted community. Until next time, protect your energy, honor your path, and remember, your worth was never up for debate. You were always enough.